Welcome to Beaches Watch, our monthly meeting. Tonight we are going to have a timely discussion about after the storm, navigating hurricane recovery. Hopefully we will not have to go through this, but if we do, we have a panel of experts ranging from Washington, D.C. to right here at Jacksonville Beach that will, and in town, sorry, Councilman Love, who will be here to kind of tell us how to navigate that if we experience any kind of damage from the storms. So I'm Maria Mark, I'm the president of Beaches Watch. I just have a few announcements to make and then we'll get into the panel discussion because we want to leave plenty of time for questions and answer questions from the audience. So before we get started, we always like to recognize our elected officials for coming out. I'd like to recognize Jackie Smith, who is still Director of Special Ops for Congressman Rutherford. I love the special ops. We have Mayor Ellen Glasser from Atlantic Beach. We have Sandy Golding, who is one of our freshmen city council people at Jacksonville Beach. We've been on it a year, I won't say that anymore. It'll be seasoned by then. We also have Chris Huffman, who is also on the City of Jacksonville Council, but she's also the Executive Director. I'm sorry, what did I say? Jacksonville Beach City Council. She's also the Executive Director for the Beaches Museum, and we thank you for allowing us to use the Jacksonville. We also like to recognize our city staff when they attend. So we have Joe Garrity, who's the city manager of Atlantic Beach. And we also have Kevin Hogenkamp, who's the assistant city manager. Thank you very much. So as you may know, we videotape our meetings. So I'd like to just kind of run through the agenda for those who will be seeing this at home. So we still have our membership drive going. It's $15 for individuals, $20 for family, $5 for students. The memberships are annually, and you can either join or renew tonight with Eileen Krimsky, who's our membership director. She's in the back, or you can always go online at our website, www.beacheswatch.com. Let's see. 5th Street Road closure near Fletcher High School beginning May 1st. The FDOT will be closing a portion of 5th Street north of Fletcher High School to replace the existing bridge as part of the A18 drainage improvement project. So follow the detour signs, give yourself more time for those detours. The Jacksonville runoff election. This is really important. This is the at-large candidates, and for those of you who may not know, the at-large candidates, there are 5 at-large representatives. They also represent us here at the beach. So it's really important that that you do vote in that election. The election is Tuesday, May 14th. Early voting has already began. It runs through May 12th. You can vote at the Neptune Beach Library from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. To learn about the candidates, we did hold a candidate forum, which was videotaped as well, and it's on our website. And you can also read the written responses from the candidates that is also on our website. We have the Hazardous Waste and E-Waste Mobile Collection event. That will be Saturday, May 4th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. That will be held at the Jacksonville Beach Operations and Maintenance Facility on Shutter Avenue here in Jacksonville Beach. The Dancing in the Streets, which one? This is like the what?
17th or 18th, whatever that Saturday is. Third Saturday in May.
No, I'm talking about the annual event. Anyway,
Yes.
it's been around a long time, but it's Saturday, May 18th from 11 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. at the Beaches Town Center. Jacksonville Beach will also vote on the Jacksonville Beach Fire Department. As you know, there's been discussions as to whether Jacksonville should take over the fire services for Jacksonville Beach. So that will be on Monday, May 20th at 7 p.m. in the Jacksonville Beach City Council chambers. You can provide any comments to the City Council at their website, which is also on the agenda. Our upcoming Beaches Watch meeting, our next meeting will be June 5th at 7 p.m. We will be back at the Beaches Library, so make sure you make a note of that. We're not there tonight because of early voting. The topic for that meeting will be the 2019 Florida Legislative Session recap. So we'll find out what has been passed, what wasn't passed that could affect us here at the beach. Coming in a little bit late is Candace Kelly.
Sorry.
That's okay. Not a problem. We just want to recognize you too, Commissioner of Atlantic Beach. So thank you for coming. Okay. Did I recognize everyone? Commander Bolillo, yes, from Atlantic Beach. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So without further ado, the meeting tonight is going to be moderated by one of our board members, Steve Pescatelli. Steve has done a remarkable job in gathering the panel, and it will be extremely informative. And so also, if you just hold your questions to the end, we will try to get to everyone as many as we can with the allotted time. We will be ending at 8 o'clock tonight, so it will be a little bit longer. Okay? Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Maria. And thanks to Chris. Where's Chris? Chris and your team here at Beaches Museum. This is an iconic venue, and we appreciate being able to be in here, so thank you very much. You all have a little slip of paper like this. This is a very quick survey at the end, but in the middle line there, after the numbers, you will see a spot for topics that you would like to see Beaches Watch address in the future. I am thinking that after tonight, since this is such a huge topic, there will be some other issues dealing with this topic of aftermath after the storm you'll want to deal with. Just fill that out, and there's a box in the back if you would do that. We've got 4 phenomenal panelists. They're going to speak each for 10 minutes or so, but no more than 10 minutes. And then we're going to open it for Q&A. And it's really cool, the group that we have up here. Because what Beaches Watch wants to do with this program is take a little deeper dive. Because right now we're in that time of the year where we're getting all those important bulleted points about what to do to get ready for a hurricane. And we're going a little further. What do we do if the unspeakable happens? If we come back. You've seen the photos, you've seen the videos, you've heard the stories. What do we do at that point? How do we prepare for that? That's what we want to do. That's what these folks have been kind enough to come out and share with us tonight. We're going to hear from, I'll introduce them first, and then we will start their discussion or their presentation. We're going to hear from Michelle and John Tipton. They're Jacksonville Beach residents. They did come back to the unspeakable. You have a handout from them. It's a 4-page type bulletin. I think there are 30 points or so on there. And Michelle has told me often when we've talked, they're not attorneys, this isn't legal advice. What they are presenting are their lessons, their frustrations, what worked, what didn't work. As she told me often, there wasn't a guide for them. So listen to that, take it, consider it, weigh it, and then maybe there'll be some questions for you. Now, they thought so much about being able to share this with you. They are here on a rather busy week. On Saturday, their daughter is getting married. Yeah, so they have fit this in between the formal wear fittings, the rehearsal dinners, and the ceremony. Again, they both have said this is so important, they wanted to share. So would you give them some love for being able to do it? Then we got Jim Love. Jim Love has been an agent with State Farm for 35 or so years.
I've been your agent for all.
And he's been our homeowner agent also. We haven't driven him out of the business yet for about the same amount of time. He is also the term-limited outgoing city council member, District 14.
Only 2 months left.
2 months left, and then he's celebrating. And so he's going to be able to give us that perspective, wind mitigation and the like, from the residents' insurance agent perspective. So if you want a little love for Mr. Love. Tasha Carter comes to us from the Division of Consumer Services. She is the director. She works with Florida CFO Jimmy Petronas with the Department of Financial Services. And one of the many duties that she's involved in is helping people make sure they get what they're supposed to get when they have insurance. So she is coming from Tallahassee to be with us tonight, so please. And the person that, we don't give awards, I don't think, for the longest distance, but we should. Donald Waters, he has come to us from Washington, D.C., just to be here for this program. It is an example of one of those things, even if you don't think, you ask, you know? So I called him. Michelle had given me his phone number. I called him, and I think when I called, he didn't know what to expect. He probably saw a Florida number coming in, and all I got was, hello? It's not a claim. That's not a claim. We have compliments. So he is, he's been with FEMA. He's their lead investigator. When there's a storm, he's dispatched. And he is going to share from that perspective. So, with that, they have 10 minutes. I will now be quiet other than to say time. And we're going to start with Michelle and John. Okay.
I'm going to let the boss go first.
I would like to personally and wholeheartedly thank Mr. Waters first and foremost. He very much so was kind of our change in the game. When he's mentioning he's somebody that can give you the information, you know, we have what happened to us, but he was somebody that really, really made a difference. And of all the things we went through with FEMA, when we got with Mr. Waters on the phone, we actually started getting things to happen and had just phenomenal results. So I would like to personally, publicly thank him for all of everything that he did for us, because it really was a game changer. So thank you very much. Thank you. I would just like to say, as a Beaches resident, we had lived in our house for almost 25 years. You know, always had flood insurance. We're on the intercoastal, and you just never think it's going to happen to you. You know, how many times have we packed up, moaned and groaned about evacuating, not sure what to bring, and didn't think it was going to happen. And it did. You know, we had the intercoastal fill up quickly, and very unexpectedly had water in our home. We came home, and I think the biggest point I'd like to share with you tonight is to do your research and hope you never have to use it. It's one of those things that the details and creating just a small little file of go-to of things to do, phone numbers to reach out to, have them with you. Like, it makes such a world of difference. When we came back to our house, you think that there's going to be somebody there to help you, and there's not. You know, the sad facts of it is, you know, and I feel like we were lucky because there was only a handful of Beaches homes that were impacted. So it wasn't like some of these other areas in Florida where their community completely devastated, would make it even worse. So I cannot imagine going through what we did and having utter devastation in the community. It would just magnify the entire what we went through. The list that we did give, again, it's not 100% everything's spot on, but we did our best in sending it out. That went out the year after with Irma, and we had so many people in the Keys getting hit and Texas getting hit that this actually ended up shared like over 1,000 times, because so many people didn't know what to do. And I was just going to touch on a couple things on here. If you ever had anything happen, use your friends, get a group of people together. The details are what's going to save you. And I can't express that enough. Having inventory of what's in your house. It seems crazy, but you need to actually quantify and make a list of every single item in your home. I mean, down to everything that's in your drawers, and not only list it in quantities, but list what the names of it, how old it is, all of that type of stuff, and have pictures of it, which seems like a huge task, but that's what's either going to get your money back or not get it back. We unfortunately, we brought everything out into the yard, and it sat there in the rain for weeks and weeks and weeks, and Our original adjuster came by and said everything looks great. He took some pictures. We asked if we could throw it away, and he said sure. And we found out later that you needed pictures of every single thing that was thrown away, and if we didn't have photo documentation of things in their water damaged state, which seems crazy, you were not getting reimbursed for it. So my message is do your homework, be prepared, and if something ever did happen, take your time and document every single thing. Things that you maybe even think aren't damaged. You know, we had pictures that were on the wall that were obviously above our water level that had mold spores, you know, months later that actually, you know, pretty much everything in the house had to go. So, and we had a one-story house. So think about the details and be prepared.
I don't know much more I can put on that. But the biggest thing when we first got back to our house, and I looked inside and the floor was wet, and I'm like, well, you know, we'll clean it out. It's not that big of a deal. But that's when we come to learn there's a difference between a breaking pipe, putting chlorinated water in your house, and all the intercoastal water bringing organisms and, you know, stuff that dogs leave in your yard and everything. That's all coming into our house. And so, you know, within 2 days, we realized that it was a major problem, and I just started mounting up all the expenses to correct our house. Started mounting and mounting it. Got to a point where it's just like, gosh, you know. They said, well, and then we went down to the city, and there's so many like details that I only have another hour to speak.
Yes.
Okay, 1 more hour. So there's so many details, like with floodplains and proposed flood maps. And of course, he educated me wonderfully on that. It was awesome. But there were so many things that we had to come up with. And the city of Jack's Beach was incredibly helpful. They were super, super good to us. And I was trying to think, the other is, we ended up going down to the city of Jacksonville because they have an actual floodplain management department where there's maybe 3 or 4 people. And in Jack's Beach, they don't really have a division. It's all included in the building department. They were extremely helpful too. We used a water damage mitigation company. I think it was ServMaster, ServPro, or something like that they came out. And but I think, like what Michelle was saying, was to make sure you document everything. And it's really tough. And I just met Mr. Love here, but I would have to think if he was my insurance agent when this happened, it would have been considerably different. So our insurance agent was not very helpful, and he was not from the beach. He was a town guy. He was a town guy. So,
A couple of things that I was thinking of, not only detailed wise, but getting samples. You need samples from your floor, you need samples from your mattress, you need samples from your walls. Physical samples like, yes, pieces of the rug. They need to see the saturation. They can measure the saturation on mattresses, on furniture, on walls, on wood. Like all of those types of things are the physical documentation that they'll be able to measure and verify where your water levels were. Because, you know, when you first came in, you thought, oh, well, there's a couple of inches. But then as you can see where the markings are on your wall and on furniture and the impact of where that is, when it's the sedentary intracoastal water, the ocean water that's coming in, it's unbelievable what it can do to the structure of your home, the floors, everything within your house. So not only details, but physical samples are things that you're going to need, and put those in a safe place because they're going to be turned in.
I think my #1 advice would be is make sure your insurance agent, your flood insurance agent, whoever it is, make sure that they're really good and you're tight with them, and that they really help you out. That would have helped us considerably. But so we ended up going through the school of hard knocks, which I feel pretty educated, but it was an expensive education. So, yeah.
A couple other things. Don't give up. Like we really, and I say this, Donald Water was phenomenal to us, but I cannot tell you, start a notebook so that it's all in one place. It seems silly, but you're so scattered and things are all over the place. Have one reference that you're keeping, who you spoke to, at what phone number, so that you can reference that back. Because what happens is you end up calling back over and over and over again, and I'm sorry to say, 9 times out of 10 you're getting a different answer. And that happens over and over and over again. And so you start heading a direction, you think you're making progress, and then you talk to somebody at a different office or a different level, and you're given another answer. So it gets extremely frustrating. So keep track of who you're talking to, and if you get an answer that you're unsure of, call another office. I mean, we researched and researched and researched getting to more people. And we kept calling new levels, and we called down to the city, and then we called consumer affairs, and then we called all these different things, to the point where we literally happened to catch, or cornered would probably be a better word, Governor Scott when he was visiting about 14 months after the storm. And he was phenomenal and got us in touch with somebody who actually got us in touch with Mr. Waters. So do your effort in making sure that you're getting to people that are decision makers. And unfortunately, they're far and few between. So you'll get through it, but be organized and be diligent, and you'll get there, and hopefully you'll get to somebody as good as Dr. Waters here.
And the last thing, how many months was it from when you came back to when you finally came back after the storm to when you finally lived in your house?
22.
Say that loud.
22 months. We had to knock down our entire home. We had to, drop it down, start all over, and rebuild. So it was just shy of 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You'll have time for, please. You'll have time for questions. For this time, we go to Jim Love.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Marcia, for inviting me today. My mom, I'm a city councilman. I'm also a State Farm agent for 35 years. My mom has also gone through some flooding for Irma, so she's still not in her house, but we're really close. In fact, we're getting ready to flip the electricity on. And just so you know, if your electricity's off for more than a year, you actually have to have a permit and somebody go out and look at it before you flip it back on. Because I tried to call them and say, turn it back on. Oh, we can't. We got to have a permit. So there's one thing after the storm. Getting it done in less than a year is probably going to be really hard. Okay, my mom Irma was after Matthew, so we're looking at 18 months almost. But we're almost there, and she's going to have like a brand new condo. What happened? She didn't get water in too much, but it got underneath the house and it wicked up. And then the FEMA people came, and just like you said, the water's nasty coming from the river, and therefore they said that you've got to tear that out. And so it takes a long time after a lot of damage to get the contractor, plus there was 8 others. So anyway, you're going to have to be patient, unfortunately. I want to answer some of these questions that you have put on here that I feel that I can answer those.
You mean Michelle's? Michelle and John.
Oh, are these your questions? Okay, it says,
No.
okay, well, these are some that you said that might be asked. Okay. And one of Steve's questions was, do you need to contact your agent? But of course you do after a claim. And there's actually about 4 ways to do it. With State Farm, I know there's 4 ways. I can tell you when a storm comes, I'm not going to have my staff sitting by the phone in the storm. They're going to be home. But all the phones are going to be transferred over to, so when you call my number, it's going to go to a central place. That's all they do is take claims. And and we do it in about 3 parts of the country, so no matter what, somebody's going to be able to take that claim. And they'll speak English, trust me. Okay, and another way is to call 1-800-SF-CLAIM. I'm sure Allstate has theirs and other companies have theirs. It goes to the same place typically. You can also do it on a mobile app. State Farm has a mobile app, and many other companies do too. And also you can do it on a website. And actually on flood claims, I did them on websites because that's not the way you do a flood claim. So when somebody called me, and I'm going to give you my cell phone number right now, if you have questions afterwards, because we're not going to have time to answer all the questions. But my cell phone number, which won't change, is 7-100-200, 710-0200. If you ever want to call me, I'm not going anywhere after my 2 more months at City Council. I'm staying here, but I love helping people. That's why I'm a city councilman, that's why I'm a State Farm agent. But those are the 4 ways you can report the claim. And again, floods are reported differently. I did them all online because that was the easiest way. You had a question about RVs. If your house gets totally torn down, can you drive an RV up there and just live in your RV? Because my mom's biggest expense is living someplace else while she's waiting. Because in a fire, your home insurance will pay for you to live someplace else for 2 years, typically, most policies. But not flood insurance, there's no additional living expense coverage. So that's her biggest cost, okay? Her flood policy is amazing. It's paying for everything else, but not that, and that's a big number. So just know that. Have money set aside. But the RV portion, which would save you money, well, I called our folks in zoning and said, hey, can you do that? He said, well, you know, RVs aren't allowed in residential areas. But if in Jacksonville, the mayor could say, you know, it's a disaster, we're letting those folks who've lost their home live in an RV. He could say that. They could, or he could not. It just depends. And then number 2, you could ask for a waiver. Say, hey, I got this nice Winnebago. I need 18 months. And you could ask for a waiver. It'd have to go to city council. Might have to go to planning commission. But it would have to be voted on. It could be voted up or down. Okay, so you just don't know if it's going to happen or not. So don't count on it. But it's possible that you could politic your mayor to make that happen. Debris removal. Okay, if it's caused by something in your policy, like a wind damage, then you would have 5% debris removal. I'm not sure on FEMA policies. You cover it, okay? 5% of the.
No, we cover it.
You just cover it, okay. And so if you had a $500,000 home and it was totally wiped out, then you would have $25,000 debris removal, and that's usually enough. Let's see, what other questions? I think that's just about it. I can tell you that you know, this forum here, I was part of the forum in the Park and King Area Association, and I'm currently the president of it. So I applaud you for this association. It's a great thing. I can tell you some things that I called State Farm. I said, I'm going to have this meeting, you know, I can get their permission. And he said, yeah, no problem. But some of the tips they said, make temporary repairs, save your receipts, okay? Take pictures, that's a good idea. Leave cleaning to the professionals. Some floodwaters contain raw or untreated sewage and other contaminants that may seriously pose a health hazard. You've already told us that. And Michelle and John, thank you so much for your presentation. That's really, really good. And then it says contact your insurance agent, of course. Of course you're going to do that. So, but here's some on cars. You know, when I went to visit my mom after the flood, and I didn't even know it flooded there, I said, Mom, why did you park your car so crazy? Well, it's because it floated down the parking lot. And my mom and my sister lived together, and we lost both their cars, and State Farm paid for those. Okay, you have collision coverage, comprehensive coverage, then it pays for your flood damage. So we just pay for their cars, minus the small deductible. But before if you don't know whether it's flooded or not or damaged, don't start it, it says, and take it to a qualified mechanic, because it might be safe and it might not. Take pictures, of course, on how high the level is. You talked about that, so that's on our list here too. Contact your agent, of course, comprehensive coverage. So those are some tips that came from State Farm Corporate. I know that you have to be patient, and boy, you guys are. It takes a long time, particularly if it's a big storm and there's a lot of contractors that can't, you know, there's just too much work to do. And it took us, I don't know, 6 months, and I went to my mom's condo association meetings, you know, representing her, because she's 86 and I'm her son, her son who knows how to do this stuff. But it took a long time to do it. They're almost done, thank goodness. And I'm sure you'll have some questions for me. And I think I've hit everything on the list, and if there's more, particularly flood and FEMA questions, Mr. Waters, which is a great name for FEMA, right? Think about it. It's a great name. You know, it's like like a tennis player named Love. I mean, no, it's probably better than that. All right, I think I'm finished, Steve.
Okay.
And I appreciate your inviting me here today.
All right, thank you, Jim. And by the way, I can't remember if Maria mentioned this or not. The handouts, the Tipton's handout and what Donald Waters provided for us from FEMA, they're in the back of the room. They are also on our website. If you go to the resources link, and then you'll see hurricane, I think it's aftermath or something like that.
Hurricane recovery.
Hurricane recovery.
And Steve, I forgot one thing. Jack's ready. If you go to your phone and you can, this is a nice hurricane preparedness guide. The new one's coming out soon, paid for by the feds, probably by FEMA. And we put it out every year, but it's on your phone if you want to put in Jack's ready, and you can download the app. And it's good for the beaches too, because I looked it up before I came here. So Jack's ready. I have it on my phone. It's got a lot of information for pre and post disaster.
Okay? Very good. That brings us to Ms. Tasha Carter.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Maria and Steve for hosting this important meeting tonight and for extending the opportunity and the invitation for me to come and share some information with you. And so, as Steve mentioned earlier, I work with CFO Jimmy Petronas and the Division of Consumer Services. And we have some specific programs and services available to assist insurance consumers before the hurricane and help you recover after the hurricane. And so Michelle, John, and Jen have already mentioned a lot of great tips. The inventory is one that we share with a lot of the individuals that we are speaking with and educating in advance of the storm. One of the things that I will add to that inventory is it's also a good idea to utilize your phone or your mobile devices to be able to take photos as well as video of your contents as well. And it's much easier to be able to access those files also if you had to vacate or be away from your property. And so you can usually send those pictures directly from your phone and upload those to your insurance company adjuster, typically through the website of that insurance company, or as I said, you can access those mobile files through the cloud and be able to have access to all of that inventory information. So that's absolutely a very, very important tip, and it's definitely going to be very valuable for you as you go through the claims process. We all recognize that preparing for the storm is something that we focus on quite a bit. You know, boarding up our windows, protecting our homes, stocking up on non-perishable food items, water, and things of that nature is things that we always seem to hear about a lot. The aspect of disaster preparedness that we don't hear a lot about is being financially prepared. And really, that's an aspect that is oftentimes forgotten when we are focused on some of the other more important and necessary things. And being financially prepared is something that you should start doing right now and do it throughout the year. And being financially prepared really consists of making sure that you are in the best possible situation to be able to recover as quickly as possible if you are impacted by the storm. The very first thing that you can do to ensure that you're financially prepared is to make sure that you have adequate insurance coverage. That's very, very important. You should review your policy at least on an annual basis. Make sure that you review the type of coverages that are available in your policy. You also want to make sure that you review your policy to have a good understanding of what is covered and what is excluded. Oftentimes there are a lot of different types of damages and losses that are specifically excluded in your policy and are not covered, even if you file a claim. And so it's very important to be aware of what's covered and what's not covered ahead of time. For those items that are specifically excluded from your homeowner's policy, you may be able to purchase additional coverage that can provide you with the coverage for those specific items, but you won't be able to do that if you're not familiar and not aware that those particular things are not covered. The other thing that's also very important from an insurance standpoint is be aware of what your hurricane deductible is. I can't tell you how many individuals we speak with who are surprised that the hurricane deductible is as high as it is and how that impacts the benefit payment that they receive and how it impacts them from being able to move forward and initiate those repairs on their home. So that's also something that's also equally important as well. And your hurricane deductible is going to be very different and much more expensive than the standard deductible that's on your policy for all of the types of claims. Okay? After the storm, the specific services that my office has and is available for you is we have a statewide insurance consumer helpline. Anytime I share that information with an audience, I always joke and say that our helpline is the best kept secret in the state, because not a lot of people realize that this helpline is available. We have over 70 individuals in our office that are trained and knowledgeable and have expertise on 26 different lines of insurance.
What is that number?
That number is 877-693-5237. And I also have some business cards with that number on there and our website, and I have those available for you at the end of today's meeting. But that helpline is available. We have over 70 specialists that can answer any of your questions. And we assist not only insurance consumers that have been impacted by a hurricane, but we assist insurance consumers every single day throughout the state, even when it's not hurricane season. And we answer questions and we assist from one end of the spectrum to the other. If you are simply just having questions because you are exploring potentially purchasing a new homeowner's policy with another insurance company, and you want to find out if we've received complaints about that insurance company, or you want to find out the number of policyholders that insurance company has, whether or not they are selling policies in a specific area of the state, we can answer all of those information for you and share all of that feedback with you and give you some guidance there as well. If you're looking for an insurance agent, we have connections with the Florida Association of Insurance Agents. We can put you in touch with those representatives in your specific community and allow you to be able to do your research to be able to identify an insurance agent as well. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we can also definitely assist as it relates to the claims process. Most times when individuals are filing a claim, especially after a hurricane, the entire situation is very overwhelming. You usually don't know what the first step is that you need to take, and even after you file that claim, you feel oftentimes that you're at the mercy of the insurance company. You're listening to the feedback that the adjuster is giving you. You don't know if that feedback is accurate. You don't know if they're acting and handling that claim in your best interest or in the interest of the insurance company. And so you just really don't know which way to turn. In some instances, many individuals end up hiring an attorney. But I would suggest and recommend and encourage that before you take that route, contact our office and utilize our services. We have individuals, we are knowledgeable about the insurance law, we are knowledgeable about the various types of policies and terms and conditions included in those policy contracts, and our responsibility is to be your advocate, be your liaison with your insurance company. So you explain everything to us, we ask you and gather all of the information that we need from you, and then we contact your insurance company, we ask all of the hard questions. If you haven't heard from your adjuster in 3 weeks, we're going to ask them why. We're going to ask them to provide us with a timeline of the actions that they've taken on your claim. And if they provide us with that timeline that shows extended delays and gaps in their involvement and in their communication feedback to you, we're going to hold them accountable for that. In addition, if we determine that they violated the terms of your policy contract or they violated the insurance laws, because a lot of times insurance companies have specific time frames within which they are required to take certain actions as it relates to claims. We know that, and that's specifically something that we're going to be looking for as we assist you go through that claims process. And so if we do identify any violations that they've committed, we are going to be referring them to the Office of Insurance Regulation for regulatory review and potential fines or other type of regulatory action. For Hurricane Irma, we opened up over 12,000 complaints for insurance consumers who were impacted by Hurricane Irma, and we were able to assist those insurance consumers in receiving an additional $42 million, solely based upon the fact that they contacted our office and we were able to help them navigate through that claims process, make sure that the insurance company took into consideration their repair estimates that were provided, make sure that if they felt repair estimates were not appropriate, that they were providing us with information relative to what the discrepancies were, and we really hold the insurance company's feet to the fire. You paid your premium, and your expectation and what you deserve is for the insurance company to honor their commitment to you in the time in which you need it the most. And so please feel free to contact our office so that we can ensure that we make the insurance company honor their commitment and their agreement to you as their policyholder.
And Tasha, thank you. One more time, the phone number.
It's 877-693-5237.
Yes.
and I apologize for not saying this, but when the Bankers Insurance Group, which was our flood insurance company, they were really giving us the runaround, and I called and it was an incredible help. I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier, but it really, really helped us. I mean, as soon as they got that phone call from y'all, they were basically on the doorstep, hey, can we help you out? I've been trying to reach you for a month.
You know, there's 50 seconds left, and what I'm taken by, what Tasha was saying, and what you folks have said, and what you told me on the phone when we talked, the amount of time that is involved with this. This is not going to happen in 72 hours. This is amazing when you think about the time that it takes to get back on one's feet. So thank you very much. You got 30 seconds left if you want to. All right, Donald, you're going to speak and you're going to use the PowerPoint. Okay, so.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donald Waters. I was told I got my job because of my last name.
Exactly.
A couple of things before I get started with the PowerPoint thing. First of all, I thought I talked fast, but I can't do Tasha. and a couple of things that Michelle said that I'd like to just really give a little bit more information on. When she was telling you like to take a little smidget or something of your property, those type things, the real thing is, and I hope you got this from them, one of the things that you have to do as a policyholder is you have to provide proof that you have these things that you have. And I think that's basically what the point is. So if you take pictures of your house, then everybody will know the type of wood that you have. And so the adjuster can't come and buy you that little plywood or that little plank that they sell at Home Depot. And if you got custom type items in your house, then you need to make sure that those things are recognized, because the adjuster, what he's going to do is just come in with his little computer and just put stuff in there. And so at the NFIP, we owe you for everything that you have, and we have to pay you every penny we owe you. So we want to make sure that we do that. So in order to do that, a lot of times is, so you take a piece of carpet, just a little bit, so that gives us the quality of the carpet that you have. Take the pictures of the house. A good thing about taking pictures is you don't have to wait till the flood to take pictures. The best thing to do is take pictures now. Go into I just did this, that's why I'm telling you this. You know, you go into, how many pair of shoes do you have? Hello? How many coats do you have? Well, down here you probably won't have any. But at least one, right? I mean, how many suits do you have? What do you have? We don't know. And Lord knows, I know you don't know how many pair of socks you got. So all we're saying is, if you don't know how to present that stuff, then you're going to have a problem with it later on. Not only will you have a problem, let's say you don't have a problem, you're not going to remember. I can't tell you what I had for breakfast this morning. I mean, that's just the way things are. And especially when everything is all wet throughout the entire house, and you're looking at this mess, and you're like, oh my God, where do I start? Is that what you did? Where do I start? And let me tell you something else. I think the worst thing that people lose when they have a flood claim, really, are the pictures. Can't get those back. Now, a lot of the stuff you said, a lot of the stuff that's in here, I totally agree with it. I think there's a lot of little twists and turns and stuff like that. I hate the fact that you had to go through this, honestly. There's no reason for you to have to go through these type of things. However, let me just share this with you, and I'm not trying to, and the stuff that Tasha said, let me just clarify a few things. All of the stuff she said is what the state of Florida will do. That's not what the federal government's going to do. Just know that. So, but here's the other thing. So, the federal government, FEMA, NFIP, we have our own contract, our own policies. And they really don't, the state really can't do anything about them, really. However, we have a relationship. So if somebody calls Tasha, she calls me, you know I'm going to take care of it. You know I'm going to take care of it. So, I mean, it's like, so we need people to understand, well, this is a federal program. It may be a federal program, but we're not going to let the state just deal with this stuff, and it's not going to happen. The other thing that really, and I am going to show a slide too, so, but when I came down here for Hurricane Matthew, you know, they said it was a 1,000-year storm. That's the most ridiculous thing I heard. A 1,000-year storm. So when I came back the year later for Irma, I said, now how many years is this? And some of the people that we talked to in Matthew, they got damaged also in Irma. Okay, all right, so what you gonna do? Now, a lot of people that were in Matthew did not repair their houses. They didn't. And then they had the nerve to come and make the same exact claim when it came from Irma. Well, we're not gonna pay you for the same damages. I'm just saying, we're just not gonna do that. So, and then there's another thing. How many people heard about that 50% rule? You heard, yeah, the 50% rule. I'm just going to say it like that, because that's how most people come to us with it. You know, because if your house is damaged substantially, and it's more than 50% of the market value, then the community is going to tell you, you're going to have to elevate that structure, correct? You don't know about that, huh? Yeah. How many people have had a floodplain before? Oh my goodness. How many people have had a floodplain in here before? Oh Lord, look at this. Oh. So you probably don't get what Michelle was talking about over that, but let me tell you something. So anyway, so the community will come out and they're going to say to you, if your house is, if you have a $100,000 house, you got $80,000 worth of flood damage, the community's going to, it doesn't have to be flood damage, it could be that wind damage. Yeah. So if you got 80% of your house is damaged by wind, by flood, by fire, if it's substantially damaged, that's what they call it, it's a 50% rule. If it's 50% more than the market value, the community in most cases will not allow you to rebuild that house or to repair it. Because the community, if they're a part of the National Flood Insurance Program, they're gonna, and the floodplain management laws, you're gonna have to elevate that house if you are pre-firm. Which means that if your house is slab on grade, this happened a lot back in Matthew too. So if your house is slab on grade, now you're going to go back and try to fix your house because it was damaged, it's 50%. Now they're going to tell you, you're going to have to elevate that house to whatever that elevation is, the base flood elevation. I think that was one of your issues, correct? I think that was the real issue. That was the real issue. That's why you called. That's why I remember that. It wasn't because they had some drywall, it was because of that elevation. And so what happens is the community is going to say to you, you cannot repair this house. We're not going to give you a building permit. Why? Well, because you're going to have to elevate the structure. And to elevate that structure, the NFIP will give you $30,000. How much is $30,000 today? What can you do with $30,000? Okay. But the community, now here's another thing. So we'll come down, we'll help you out if you have a flood. But all of the activities, all of the programs, and I sent in the back of one of the things that I gave you is who's knocking at your door. If it's a presidentially declared disaster, oh, everybody comes down. All of FEMA come up and show up and tell them, we're going to help you. Don't do much, but we say we're going to help you. Okay? I'm just, don't tell them what I said. Take that tape off. I'm just kidding. So what we do is everybody comes down. We have people who IA, they come down, SBA comes down, everybody comes down. And they really do want to help. And people do try to help. That's if it's a presidentially declared disaster. Right, Tasha? But if it's not a presidentially declared disaster, you got some flooding going on around here, the only person that's going to come here is the NFIP to handle your flood claim for you. Now, you can take the chance of getting a presidentially declared disaster and hope you're going to get some money. And mostly what they'll give you is about $8,000, which is about $1,000. But if you have your own policy, then you can demand to get what you are deserving to get, which is hopefully enough to repair your house or to get your structure back in line with what has to happen. So keep in mind that just because it's flooding, if it's not declared, then all you're going to get is what you have. And if you don't have a policy, then you don't get anything. Especially if it's flood. Because your homeowner's policy does not cover flood. Right?
Right.
Now they do have some private companies out here selling flood as well. I don't know what they have, I don't know what they do, I really don't know. But I do know that your first line of defense is for you to go ahead and do exactly what Tasha said and make sure that you have your own economics taken care of and buy yourself a policy and make sure that you take care of that. And so those are the kinds of things that I think that I just wanted to hit just because I heard all of those things when I was sitting there and everybody's talking. I got 2 minutes?
Yes.
Oh, I was going to sit down there. Anyway, it is a pleasure for me to be here with you.
But you still got 2 minutes.
Okay.
You can show some slides if you'd like.
I'm going to show you one or two, okay? I just want to share something with you.
Wait a minute, we have technical assistance coming down.
Don't worry about it, I'll get it. Okay, so Hurricane Matthew was 2016, Hurricane Irma was 2017, and Hurricane Michael was 2018. And what I wanted to just share with you is, these storms, although they're Category 5s, there was about 8,000 here, 30,000 claims here, I think 18,000 claims that we had for flood and Hurricane Irma. But what's more important and what's more devastating to me, and the numbers that we never ever talk about, that I think everybody needs to understand is, when you have a flood claim, the average flood payment is close to like $50,000. And what we're talking about, we're not talking about the elevation of the home. We're talking about drywall. We're talking about floors. We're talking about cabinets. We're talking about some doors inside the house. So if you got $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in your pocket, that's okay. That's fine if that's what you have, and you can sit back and you can wait on this flood to come. But if you don't, I would suggest that you might want to think about getting yourself a flood policy, because it's hard for you to really deal with all you have to deal with and then trying to figure out how to prepare it later. And the average claim, and everybody know about Hurricane Harvey, right? Back in the day, a couple of years ago, Hurricane Harvey basically took over Houston.
Yeah.
Average claim payment, the average claim payment was $112,000. Average. And half of those claims, they didn't even have, a lot of them didn't have flood insurance because they were in what we call an X zone. And that's a zone that you don't even need a flood insurance policy. But the majority of the flooding that we have was in an X zone. So let me just share this with you as well. I know I only got a second. But they talk about these zones, like a flood zone, a special flood hazard area. Well, I don't know, the beach don't look like it's that far from here for me. So I'm not sure what zone you're in. But don't get caught up on that you're not in a flood zone. Right. Because everywhere in Florida is a flood zone. Everywhere. And so and if you're not in a flood zone, in one of those special flood hazard areas, then your premiums are very, very low. So I suggest if you don't have a flood insurance policy, and they've had floods the last 3 years, you don't have one this year? I'm just kidding. So why take the chance? Why take that chance? Because if it comes, and everywhere it rains, it floods. So I'm just suggesting that there's something. My time is up. Thank you so much, and I really am glad to be here.
Thank you. I'm so glad you came. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move into a Q&A. Just a few comments on that. As always with Beaches Watch, we're looking for a collaborative and civil give and take. There really are two requirements when you're asking the question. Keep it brief if you can, for 30 seconds, and somewhere in what you're saying, ask a question. You need a question. Who would like to ask a question? Gotta be a question.
Jack.
Yes, right there.
Well, I want to back up and thank Mr. Waters. I'm with Congressman Rutherford. And sometimes, we get called in, and John has been out there, and we have helped people. I know with the cities, sometimes FEMA or the federal government gives the money to the state, and the people, like Joe, has filed a claim, and then they say, we haven't gotten our money, Jackie. So I look into it by calling our contact for FEMA, and I give them the number, and it was a case of the state requires one last, okay, you filled out all that, now we've got the money, but you never filled out the form that said, please may I have my money. So we had to do a please may I have money, and finally get that. And what Mr. Waters is saying is so true. We had those hurricanes, and they were Category 5, and they didn't hit land. They stirred up a lot of water. If they really hit us, everybody in the state of Florida should have flood insurance, period.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't ask the question.
No, that's
Good information.
that was good. Yeah. But you caught that, so that was good. That was good. That was very good. Question. Oh, right. Yes. And then.
I find it very confusing to try to understand when your homeowner insurance policy would be who you go to as opposed to the flood insurance. Because I know that you don't always, you think you may have had something that qualifies for flood insurance, but you don't really. So you need to understand the difference between those two.
Who's the first point of contact?
Okay,
Yeah.
in my case, in my mom's case, I sold her the flood insurance, so I'm the agent for her condo insurance too. So she would call me. Now, if it was a fire, I would just report it on the State Farm system. But because hers was a flood, I entered it in the FEMA system online. But you're still going to contact me. I'm going to take the information. I'm going to start the ball rolling. FEMA will, they will call you and they will get working on it. So it probably took a week before they got out there, but they had the whole, the condo, it was 8 units on the bottom that all flooded, so they had to get them all together. It took them a while to get it all figured out whether we're going to do anything or not. But they wisely said, you've got to fix it or it will be a mess. But I appreciate that. Yeah,
John.
Go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, if the water's going that way, it's flooding. If it's going that way, it's homeowners. So any water going up, rising, is a flood claim. Any water coming down is homeowners. So that would, so like if you have a pipe that bursts in your house and flood your house out, that's homeowners because that's falling. It's not a rising water.
Or if there's a hole in the roof and the water's coming down, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
The rising water, flood water. I also have, I don't know if it's attached to your thing.
Yes,
but
it is.
This is attached, because there is a 1-800 number if you think you have flood. Let me just, I know, I was all prepared to talk, but apparently I didn't do a good job here.
No, you did a great job.
So anyway, with the National Flood Insurance Program, there's like 60 companies that write NFIP flood. Used to be State Farm, but they decided that they didn't want to be bothered with
we
us.
still sell it, but we sell it through you.
So then you got all the other companies that do sell the National Flood Insurance Program. But if you call this number, this 1-800 number, then they will get you in touch with your company if you have to file a claim. Okay?
Are you going to tell us the number?
Oh, yeah.
It's
sure.
on the handout. Oh, right?
Yeah, it's on the hand. But it's 1-800-621-FEMA.
Okay.
And let me just share this one last thing, and I'm going to shut up for the rest of the day. If you have any questions for me after today, if you don't mind, just send them to you and you can shoot them up to me. Anything at all.
If you want, sure. Okay. Question?
So for Mr. Waters and perhaps Mr. Love, so I read stories from New Jersey about issues where they're saying much of the damage was pre-existing damage and they don't want it back. Can you address that from your perspective?
Well, it's an insurance policy, it's not a maintenance policy. Let's just be honest with that, okay? But when we talk about New Jersey, if you're talking about that hurricane that happened in 2012, back in those days, you're talking about the type of damages and structures that were probably like 50, 60, 80 years old. And they had like some foundation type issues and stuff like that. And the policy really doesn't address those type things. And I think one of the things that we have to be clear about, and I think that you mentioned was, you have to watch the exclusions as well. So there were some issues with those type things, but it just wasn't, some of it was not covered damages. So in New Jersey, for instance.
Commissioner?
So what can we do, but what can local government do to help our people after a flood? I mean, if it floods, it's gonna flood most of us, so how can we help?
Okay. I'm local government.
Yes.
I can tell you that I didn't know the floodwaters were coming up, and I had to call fire and rescue to get my mom and my sister out of her condo because their cars were floating away and they brought in their big truck. So certainly fire rescue can help. I can tell you that I'm on a resiliency committee with Sam Musa and Lloyd Boyer and a bunch of other folks, and we're trying to figure out what to do for the future. And Mr. Waters was talking about you have to raise your house up, but that's only if you're in a flood hazard area. If you're in an X zone like my house, okay, I'm pretty high up, and I'm off grade. If my house gets 50% in, I don't have to raise it up 2 feet or 1 foot or whatever. I don't have to. It's only if you're in a flood hazard zone, and it's based upon a base flood elevation. Now, the current law in Jacksonville is you got to build 1 foot above the base flood elevation, okay? We're changing that law. We're going to change it to 2 feet.
Jim, is that all Duval County or just the city of Jacksonville?
I think our zoning only applies to Duval County, but not Baldwin and Beaches, so.
That's right.
Yeah, so you guys have your own, and I don't know what it is. What is
Because
it?
that was one of the issues that, I spoke about,
Yeah.
because we were 4.75 feet in a flood zone where AE4 is, but the proposed maps that have not been adopted yet are now 6. So at first they're saying, well, just fix the house because you're legal. I said, well, within a year or 2, it's going to be 6 and we're going to be below it, which is fine, But I said, and it kind of makes sense to, go ahead and do it now. And so that's when we got our, what's it called? Cost of compliance. Yeah, increased cost of compliance.
And some other things the government can do. I know that during the storm, we had shelters. You got to have shelters for the folks. I went and visited Enterprise School, and we had one of the things I'd like to do is get generators that work the air conditioners, because they had generators that work, but they wouldn't work the AC. So I'd like to see you fix that. But certainly that's one of the things that you can do. And of course, preparing the public is real important. Okay, if you're in line, if they say get out, get out. It's a lot more fun to watch the storm on TV than be in the middle of it. Okay, trust me on that one. It's a lot, and there's nothing you can do if you're there except get hot, get mad, not be able to watch TV. I mean, it's miserable if the storm comes through and you're in the middle of it when you could be 200 miles away, and yeah, someplace nice, it's much better. So listen to what, the government needs to put out the word and be stern about it, okay? And also preparing, what we did in Jacksonville is we already had the debris removal, for the trees, because the first storm, Matthew, really didn't bother me and my mom, but we had all kinds of plants and stuff that fell to the ground, and you had a big pile. Well, we had prepaid a company to come pick it up at a certain price. And
The city did, or you did it?
City did, and we pay them, storm or no storm, we pay them a little bit of stipend. Now, when they start picking it up, we pay them based upon the tonnage, but it's at a set price, so they don't gouge us. But they're set on the ready. They have to work for us.
You set that up before the storm.
We got it set up right now. We pay them storm or no storm. They get a little bit of money, but when they do come in, they get paid a set fee, and they have to work for us. They can't go to Georgia or someplace else. They got to work for us. So that's something the government can do. So you have to do a lot of pre-planning. Make sure you got the generators working. JEA didn't have their generators working on 118th Street lift station for sewage. So what happened when the first Matthew came through? It didn't work very well, didn't work at all, and thousands and thousands of gallons in my district went right to St. John's River. So what we did is got mad at them and said, you get those things working. And the next storm, Irma, we almost had none. No sewage problem, because the generators work. So JEA is an independent, but they are owned by the city. So we kind of have a relationship. They do listen to us. If I can think of some more things, I'll tell you later offline. Tasha.
I think a couple of things that local government can do, in addition to what Jim has shared, is education. That's very, very important. This room should be packed full of individuals really that should be here hearing this information, especially with us being 1 month away from the start of hurricane season and with a tropical disturbance already in the Gulf.
Really?
And so it's starting. But education, I think, is very important because individuals, if they wait until the storm is actually bearing down on us, it's too late at that point to really get prepared. Now is the time to start thinking about and taking those specific steps. I think something else that's important from a local government standpoint is also sharing information. There's so many different ways and avenues that people gain information today through social media, through your traditional news stations, through print media, online media, and I think local governments have to do a good job of being innovative and being creative to try to figure out how can you utilize those avenues to be able to reach as many people as you can in order to make sure that they have the information that they need. And then lastly, I think it's also important to identify the specific resources for individuals. As we've shared today, when you are faced with a claim, you find yourself in a very overwhelming and stressful situation. And some people don't know where to turn, don't know who to contact. But if you can put together a prearranged list of specific resources that now residents in the community have, they can then utilize that when they start that recovery process, and they'll have the specific numbers, the specific contact persons, and the organizations and entities that they need to be able to help them begin to get back on their feet. And so I think those three things are pretty important from a local government standpoint.
I would ask also, Jim, on fraud, you know, as soon as Mr. Waters knows, and so does Tasha, the minute people are writing big checks, the fraudsters are right the next people there. And so, like, people that come down the street to, I'm going to fix your roof or whatever, is there any way we can vet those at the local level?
That's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. The Department of Business and Professional Regulation is the state government agency that licenses and regulates contractors. So even if you have a contractor from out of state that comes into the state to do work, they still have to comply with the state's licensing requirements. And so you definitely, anytime that you are contemplating hiring or entering into a contract with a contractor, you definitely want to make sure that you are checking and verifying their licensure status. That does not mean simply accepting a copy of their business card that has a license number on it, or accepting a certificate that they give you, because we can create those things now with the types of technology that we have and that are available to us. DBPR has an online website that allows you to be able to type in a license number, to be able to verify whether or not the individual is licensed. And if you don't have a specific license number, you can type in the name of the contractor or the name of their business, because the license number will also be tied to their individual name as well as their business as well. So that's the first tip as it relates to contractors. The second tip to help protect yourself from fraud is the assignment of benefit process. How many of y'all have heard about AOBs? Because that's been in the news a lot. Does everybody understand how an AOB works? No. Okay, so an assignment of benefits is essentially your right as an individual to decide to transfer your claims, your right to your claim, to another individual. And you have the right to do that. And a lot of times we see it in health insurance related situations where somebody transfers the rights of their policy or their specific claim to their medical provider, and the medical provider files the claim with the insurance company and receives payment for those services rendered. You don't have to get involved in that process. But as a homeowner, typically it works the other way around. You are actually contacting your insurance company and you are filing the claim, and you're taking care of all of the information and documentation and receiving direct payment. What happens when an assignment of benefits is misused? And that's what you've heard a lot about in the news, and something that's being discussed in the legislature now, is you have contractors that come in, and when they get you to sign that contract to do the repairs on your home, you are actually signing an assignment of benefits, and you won't be able to really recognize it immediately. But there is specific terminology that they incorporate into that contract, and it requires you to have to utilize them to complete the repairs. It also allows them typically to falsely inflate the cost of those repairs when they are providing that invoice to your insurance company. And then secondly, typically it includes terms within that agreement that if you attempt to either discontinue utilizing the contractor services or you try to break the agreement in any way, you are either subject to a huge fine or a penalty, or they will place a lien on your house. Okay? The challenge with assignment of benefits is once they are signed and executed, they become a legally binding document. And so it is very difficult for you to extricate yourself from that particular agreement. And usually also, that agreement removes all of your rights in the claims process. So now, that contractor has the right to communicate directly with your insurance company about that claim. They also have the right to make specific decisions about your claim. And they will ultimately receive the settlement check made payable to them at the end of the claims process. You are cut out of the claims process completely, and you have no more authority and no more rights and responsibilities because you have transferred those rights to the contractor through the assignment of benefits process.
Along with a large percentage of your claim.
Yeah, we had that happen. Initially, the first couple of days after the storm, we were suggested to bring in a restoration company. They came in, and at that moment, they're pressuring you very, very, very heavily to sign over an assignment of benefits. And we very quickly, within a couple of weeks, were realizing that our substantial damage was going to be over 50% before we even got into our elevations, but we're looking at the numbers of what was going to cost to do our home. The restoration company had ran up $11,000 in, venting, fans, like it very, very much so blew up what the account was, and that came off the top. They were contacted directly, they were paid directly. Thankfully, we nipped it in the bud quicker than, we lost $11,000 over it, and we ended up ultimately, demoing the house, but they came in, to save you and to help you, and it was really improperly handled and took advantage of us, at a panic time rather than, so be very, very cautious in signing over an AOB.
And you did not sign that. You didn't sign it, sign it.
Well, we did, but we had to put down $5,000 before they would even start. We had to go, we were financially prepared, so we brought $5,000, gave it to them, and they kept pressuring us to sign that thing off. And they kept bringing fans and trucks and bags and all this stuff. I'm like, no. I said, turn everything off and get it out of here. We're done. It was a total.
But understand that could have been quadrupled if we wouldn't have stayed on top of it. I mean, us ending up at 11 very well could have been $25,000, and that comes off the top of what your total payout is, and that depletes very, very quickly.
I can give you one example, Donna, I'll let you go in a moment. I can give you one example with the couple that I assisted in Panama City with Hurricane Michael. They contracted with a state licensed roofing contractor to simply place 2 tarps on their roof a couple of days after Hurricane Michael passed. And through that process, the roofing contractor required them to sign an assignment of benefits. Of course, they didn't know that that's what they were signing. They required them to sign an assignment of benefits and asked the couple to provide him with a copy of their homeowner's policy. And the contract, when I looked at it, it listed the amount that the couple was responsible for paying was $14,200, which is a very specific amount. And first of all, it's extremely high for 2 tarps. The $14,200 was exactly the amount of their hurricane deductible. Okay? When they ultimately got the invoice from the roofing contractor a couple of weeks later, the total amount that the roofing contractor charged them was $18,000 for 2 tarps. 2 tarps.
And that just goes on and on and on. There was this one lady who had this mitigation water company come to her house. And what they did was they put all these fans and all these blowers into her house. Well, she had them just sitting in the middle of the floor when you go there, because every time she plugged them up, her lights would go out. But she still had to pay for them. And let me just share this with you. Like I said earlier, we owe you for flood damage to your structure. And yes, we would pay for some mitigation, for some water mitigation. However, it would behoove you to tell them that you have an insurance company and that they'll be out here to do some things for you. Don't do it the first day that they come, because it's already damaged, so you don't have to do it today. And then what they do is, a lot of times, they'll go in and they start cutting drywall and all of that out as well. Well, that's going to be part of your claim as well. So we're going to pay you for that anyway. So just be mindful. Now, they do some things, and what we want you to do is mitigate the damages as quickly as possible. Open the windows, start drying out the house, get that damaged stuff out, take pictures, do all of those type things, and so the house can dry out some. And then, because you got to do that before you start the process anyway. And when they come out to do some things, a lot of them, what they want to do is pack up the house. We're not going to pay for that. I'm just saying. They're going to pack up the house. They want you to pay for that. They want to do this. They want to do that. $20,000 in 5 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. And you can tell, we go through the neighborhoods, we see them in everybody's house. Serve Pro in every house. Y'all don't work for Serve Pro, do you? Nobody in here? Okay. So, yeah, but the thing is, you gotta be mindful. The water that, we call it Cat 3 water, which is the water with all kinds of things in it. Don't even touch anything unless you have gloves on. So everything is damaged anyway. It needs to be destroyed and thrown away anyway. So what they're going to do for you is it's really not as much as what you think. And I think what Michelle said is get some friends together. One thing about friends and people that go to church and stuff like that, if it's not their neighborhood, they don't mind coming over to help you out. They really don't. And they don't mind coming over because it feels like, since it happened to you, I'm going to come and help you. People in those type situations, when it happens, people are ready to help you. And they will help you. And don't be so proud, I got this. No, you don't. Sometimes things are bigger than we are. Get the little help that you can get. Because there's going to be a long period of time. And it's hard sometimes. You just want to cry, but you can't. You'll cry out of tears. You don't have any more tears. Now what do? Listen, it's not an easy time. And somebody said, what can people do? There's a lot of people who don't have a problem coming out to talk like Tasha and I. There's a lot of people. If we can help you, we will. And I've never been asked to come out before a storm. So I'm so excited, I can't even stop talking.
You're behind Mayor Glasser. You had a question.
I wanted to go back to local government.
Please.
I think the challenge is, what do we do for the vulnerable people? What do we do for the people who don't have $400 to their name that they can get their hands on? They're not going to leave where they live. They can't, what about they don't have a car? Okay, you won't take their dog, they're on a cane or a walker or a wheelchair. They don't own a home. What happens to people who rent and get flooded out? Okay, they don't get relocated anyplace. They're the ones that are kind of like stuck. They don't have an insurance agent who's helping them. They don't have anybody for the city that's thinking about them. They could be a long time. After Hurricane Matthew, the elderly housing on the beach was evacuated and the electricity was turned off. When those people came back, they were low income, they spent all their money being evacuated and all of their food was rotten in their refrigerators, because the electricity was off for 4 days, which it had to be because it was in a vulnerable area. That's the challenge to local government, I think, because everyone else has an advocate. That we have you and insurance agents. But what happens if people don't? Those are the kind of plans, I think, that we should be thinking about before the storm.
Tasha, and then after Tasha, if there's a local government official that wants to speak to that, please feel free to raise your hand. Tasha.
And I think you're absolutely correct. Those are the individuals who kind of find themselves in the gap, where they don't have an advocate, they don't have, any other means or resources to be able to help them get back on their feet and help them to recover. And I think you're absolutely correct in that ahead of time, we should be identifying social service organizations that offer various types of programs and services to assist the elderly, to assist the vulnerable, to assist those individuals that may find themselves homeless or can't return back to their home for one reason or another. And I think doing that ahead of time, and as I indicated earlier, putting together a list of resources. Those entities and those types of organizations should be a part of the resource. Now is a good time to start doing the research to determine who would be the appropriate social service organizations to be able to assist. There's also some state government agencies that can help out as well. Department of Elder Affairs may have some specific local programs through the area aging offices that could possibly assist elders in the community. The Department of Economic Opportunity also can potentially provide some grants and other funding through social service organizations for individuals in the community as well. And then of course we have our large charitable organizations like the Red Cross and the Salvation Army that also can help provide food and other types of services, clothing needs and things of that nature. So I think it's also a matter of doing the research to try to identify those state agencies and those local agencies and then the social service agencies in the community, and then making contact with the specific persons ahead of time as well, so that after the storm you have a specific person that you can reach out to help you with this particular situation, and identifying all of the various needs that may need to be met, and then making sure that you have a contact or a resource for each one of those areas. I think that would also be a great start.
And in the back,
Sir,
So I can probably speak to that. My name's Chris, I live in Atlantic Beach. I'm also a disaster housing inspector.
Speak loud, a little louder, please.
Yeah, my name's Chris, I live in Atlantic Beach. I'm also a disaster housing inspector that's contracted by FEMA. So you have to figure out by now, FEMA is this huge octopus with many arms. And Mr. Waters' division, very big, is one of the arms. And I think I can speak to your issue there. That's the individual housing program. Their job is to make people safe, secure, and sanitary. It's not a lot of money, but it comes quick. It's more money for other people than not. Things like the spoiled food in the refrigerator, the governor's food for four program at the time, everybody's house I went into who was affected, and I'm talking about everything from trailer homes to renters to some people probably shouldn't have been applying. They were thankful for that program. So your emergency, your first way to get to those people that are disadvantaged, don't have a lot of money, is this arm of FEMA, that is the IH, the individual housing that can file for disaster assistance on there. All the other pain and waiting and the big insurance, people coming and flood insurance program, that's for people with more money, that's stuff later on. Maybe I'll spoke to you. By the way, add SBU to your flood insurance program. Don't just have flood, have SBU sewer backup provider.
And sir, after the program's over, which was about 5 minutes or so, would you mind sticking around in case some other folks in the audience?
Sure.
Thank you.
But can I just say, I just want to say one thing. You're gonna make me shout. So, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, but what he's talking about is after the disaster has been declared, then all types of FEMA stuff comes out. And there's a lot of help at that time. But what I like is, sometimes it's not a federal disaster, and we still have those same issues that you're talking about. And so I think that, American Red Cross and all these other places, that they're part of the disaster team as well. So we have those type teams. But I think, and I agree with Tasha, she's powerful up here. I mean, a lot of the stuff needs to be discovered now, and we have to talk to all of these communities and all of these other organizations now, because now is the time, because we don't know what's going to happen in July. We don't know. And we've had enough storms here in the last couple of years that it looks like the possibility just might happen again. I don't know.
A couple things, just following up, now is the time. He mentioned using and looking at things on your phone. Well, we lost our computers, there was no electricity, you were sparing on your cell phone. Make the file now, write down the phone numbers, do some research, download some, checklists, have the file ready. Have copies of your flood insurance policy, have copies of your homeowner's insurance. It seems like a no-brainer, but I remember standing in the driveway going, what's the phone number for a homeowner's insurance? Like, you have to have that prepared beforehand when it happens. Persistence with these types of offices. Mr. Waters has been phenomenal, but we spent hundreds of hours on the phone with different people. You have to be persistent. Them saying somebody's going to get back with you in 2 weeks, in 2 months is not going to happen. Have their phone number, have their name, and follow back up, because it's not in their business, and he's doing a great job, but believe me, they're not going to be calling you back, to be honest. It's rare that they're calling you back. So follow back up with these people, be persistent, have your documents, have your dates, have your information. The only other thing that I thought of that we haven't talked about, we talked about assignments of benefits, but in addition to contractors coming out there trying to swindle you, the other thing is public adjusters come out of the wood. And public adjusters are people that are supposed to be the person on your side and helping you go through this process. We very fortunately had somebody that was trained and experienced and knowledgeable public adjuster that could help us. But public adjusters are another one that can come in and say, hey, we're here to save the day, and by the way, we're taking 20%. So be cautious, do your research before you sign off with somebody for a public adjuster. We had multiple that offered to help, and it comes at a price, and so does hiring an attorney, and we didn't have the benefit of being able to fork over that portion because we needed it to rebuild the house. So be very, very cautious. There are good ones. There's very, very good ones. There's knowledgeable ones, but it's just like the roofers that shows up. There's probably 9 out of 10 of them are there for the buck for the day. So be very, very cautious in public adjusters that are offering to help.
Folks, we just scratched the surface, haven't we?
Yes.
I mean, just scratched the surface. And the Tiptons, I mean, to relive it again, I just don't know what you went through, can't imagine it, but we appreciate you sharing this. Again, their handout that they created, the document is on the Beaches Watch website under the Resources tab. Jim, thanks for coming out again.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Tasha, a force of nature. I like it. And Donald, someday I hope you get over your fear of speaking. We appreciate you coming in. Except for the Tiptons, where I think they're going to a rehearsal dinner or fitting or something, I'm not sure what. But maybe you can get a question or two in if you didn't have the opportunity during this time. Don't forget this little piece of paper. It's really short. Quick evaluation, circle one number, hopefully the highest number. Do you want more of something like this? Do you want, what do you want Beaches Watch to do? And then, if you haven't already, sign up for our e-newsletter and consider joining the group. We're a nice group of people. Do that, please. Would you give them some love, please?